Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson here with my amazing posing co-host and producer. You're not posing.
Right.
The one and only Jade Harrell.
Hey.
What's up, Jade?
What's going on, Shawn?
Oh my goodness, I like that. You pose, you're gonna pose again. You're
I'm
gonna do the
posing.
pretty, put the arm up on the table. You know about those Instagram poses? Oh, you're gonna do the high school,
That old high school one.
high school photo. Man, it was so bad. Those senior pictures,
Uh-huh.
so bad.
I know.
Look back on I'm laying across the year I graduated. Why?
Over a tree stump.
Why are you doing that? Right, the tree stump.
Right.
Good stuff.
They took us outside.
So how are you today?
Oh, man, this is good. I am magnanipandific.
Oh, wow.
Panderific.
That sounds like a sandwich or
It
something. I don't
actually
know.
it is. It's a triple decker.
All right.
Magnanimous,
Mhm.
stupendous, and terrific.
Ooh.
Magnanipanderific.
Ooh. Ooh. I like that. That's powerful.
I like it too. Thank you.
I can't do nothing with it. Personally, that's like
That's all
above my pay
That's
grade,
right.
but I love it. Thank
That's
you
all
so
me.
much for sharing that.
Yes,
Everybody,
sir.
thank you so much for tuning into the show today. We've got an incredible
Oh,
guest.
dude.
Second time on the show by popular demand,
Juicy.
and one of the smartest guys I know.
And handsome.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. The one and only Dr. Jade
Ooh,
Teta
yes.
is on the show today, and we're going to be talking about some of these strange things that are going on out there in the interwebs regarding food.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
so we're going to talk a little bit more about food because all of us are looking for that perfect diet, looking for the correct way of eating. And we're going to dissect what does that actually look like? Is that even a thing? Because, and I think you're going to be really surprised and you're going to walk away with some powerful insights that are going to help to guide the rest of your decisions moving forward. It's going to be that powerful and impactful.
yeah.
But really quickly, I want to give a big shout out to unconventional training.
Come on.
I've got to talk about unconventional training because we're strong in linear directions for the most part, right? You're strong with how much do you bench, bro?
I know, right?
How much you bench, bro? The universal greeting
Mm-hmm.
in the meathead space, which I could be a meathead and be smart too.
Right.
Just shout out to that.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the smart
You're
meatheads
more
listening.
than a piece
But we
of
get
meat.
strong in these linear directions, very mechanical. Like you can press forward,
Mm-hmm.
you can press yourself up doing a push up. But what about all the other? Because I promise you're supposed to have range of motion and strength in all directions,
Right.
just in case.
That's
Because,
key.
for example, we're talking about playing a sport like football,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're going. Chances are, when you're pressing away that lineman or whoever you're trying to block, the linebacker coming at you, chances are they're not going to be perfectly placed,
Linear,
equally balanced
right.
in both of your hands against both of your legs, right? It
That's
doesn't
right.
work like that. Life doesn't work like that. So we want to be able to train ourselves to be more adaptable, to injury-proof our body, adding in tools like kettlebells, adding in tools like steel maces, steel clubs. Do you
Wow.
even know what those are? You better know what these are. These
You would want to.
steel clubs, we've got to
Yeah.
start implementing these things. The mace, oh man, I'm starting to really fall in love with that tool because it helps you to become strong in multiple directions. Also the battle ropes.
Wow.
Guys,
Yeah.
get yourself a battle rope. Get yourself a battle rope for your home.
Yep.
All right. I promise you it's going to be ton of fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun to use that tool, but also it's like great for your family as well. And I have Big Red is the name
you
of my
got
battle
the-
rope
yeah.
from On It. All
The
right,
stuff
guys.
for
So
ships
this
and anchors.
On It is the company for unconventional training.
That's
all right.
right.
Not only are they about human optimization with their supplements, the Hemp Force, the Shroom Tech Sport, the Shroom Tech Immune, the MCT oils, which I use every day. But the unconventional training equipment, they've got Ironman kettlebells. They've got Primal bells. They're the ones, you see The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
Yeah.
He's got this big gorilla kettlebell On It. All right? So you guys get access to that. And here's the key. Because you listen to the Model Health Show, you get 10% off all of their training
That
equipment.
too?
Exclusive alert.
Oh, wow.
That just happened right now.
It really did.
Head over to onit.com/model. That's ONNIT.com/model. And you're going to get 10% off all of the health and human performance supplements and their unconventional training equipment. So definitely check that out. And now let's get to the iTunes review of the week.
Oh, here's a good one. It says, amazing people, amazing content. 5 stars from Jess Brewster. This podcast is wonderful in so many ways. Not only does Shawn provide quality content about fitness and nutrition, but he also explains the why aspect. I never end this podcast wondering if what I heard was true. And I'm a neuroscience student at the University of Arizona with an emphasis in brain gut health. And I can't stand when people separate the mind and the body into two separate components. This podcast explains the importance of each component of the body and how one thing can affect another, whether it be through nutrition, movement, or mental state. Regardless, thank you so much for the quality content and phenomenal energy of your show. I will continue to tune in to every episode.
Oh, wow. Big, big, big shout out to you. And just, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing a little bit of your story.
Yeah,
and just like sending you so much good energy to keep pushing you forward and executing on your goals and then being able to serve and help make a difference out here because we need you. And I appreciate that so much beyond words. So everybody, thank you so much for leaving these reviews for us over on iTunes. If you've yet to do so, you see how much it makes me happy?
Right.
You want to make me happy, right?
I want
Head over to iTunes and leave us a review. Giggle? I don't know if I giggle though. That's
we can't go from
that's
the
below my
mace
pay
to
grade.
giggle.
All right, I'm not gonna. I don't do that. I do a manly laugh.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. And I bleed on the inside.
That's
Karate
right.
Man. Bleed on the inside. So everybody, thank you for leaving those reviews for us. And again, hop over and leave us a review if you've not done so already on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify.
We're there too.
Wherever you're listening, please leave us a review.
Don't forget to
subscribe.
You.
Subscribe.
So you
Hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
All right, now let's get to our special guest and our topic of the day. Today we're talking to Dr. Jade Teta, who is an integrative physician, naturopath, and personal trainer with over 25 years of experience. When you see him, you're like, bro, you're 25 years old.
Right.
How is it?
How did that
you
happen?
came out of the uterus like
to the desk,
10 push-ups.
To the classroom.
Years of experience, 25 years of experience helping other people to achieve their health, weight loss, and fitness goals. He's also the founder and CEO of Metabolic Effect, Inc., and the author of the best-selling book, The Metabolic Effect Diet, and also Lose Weight Here as well, which is with my label. I guess it's like record labels now with books, with book publishers. And he's a regular contributor to many publications, including the Huffington Post, and also the #1 natural medicine textbook used in medical schools across the country. So this is one of those things that's like it's a permanent stay in these different schools. So Jade has completed an estimated 10,000 workouts in his lifetime. What?
Right.
And has worked with thousands of weight loss and fitness seekers from all over the world through his Metabolic Effect Clinic and online programs. And I'd like to welcome back to the Model Health Show, my friend, Dr. Jade Teta. How you doing today, Jade?
What's up, you guys? So good to be back. Such an honor as always. Love you both.
Man, I'm so happy to have you back on, man. So last time I actually talked to you, I think that was when we were hanging out at the Mastermind. So It's been a little while. But I brought you on. There were people asking a lot of questions because they saw that you obviously have this really eclectic and diverse knowledge base, which is why we click so well as well. But to get this perspective from somebody who's done all the things you've done, and I really want to talk more about food, man. So I guess we're just going to go ahead and dive in here and jump right in with food. And let's talk about diet. So diet and exercise, first of all, they're usually lumped together. So it looks like it's this 50-50 relationship. But in your experience, what role does food actually play with our ability to burn fat?
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and most people miss this because what's interesting is when you're working out a lot, it feels like you're doing something, right? So you have this feeling of I'm being productive, I'm making progress because I'm doing something. Right. But when you're in the kitchen, when you're eating out, when you're making food choices, it doesn't really feel the same way as going to the gym and sweating. But I would say for the vast majority of people, it is the most important thing. And if we want to get into percentages, if I had to say my expertise based on my years, it's probably 70%, 80% for most people, diet. And then maybe for some who are sort of hard losers and dealing with metabolic issues and things like that, it may be even more, up to 90%. And so we have to attend to diet. The only thing that I would say, by the way, that's more important than diet is probably stress management, which we could cover in another, sort of time or during this time or not. But diet is huge.
Man, you just brought up something. It's like an aha moment for me as well. It's the application because we all hear the quotes, abs are made in the kitchen. Your diet is the biggest component. but it's the fact of the feeling. It's the experience. Like when you're sweating, like you're like, oh, the fat is just like crying. It's crying out of my skin, right? And you think that there's so much activity going on, like you're doing so much. But when it really boils down to it, what you're making your tissues out of tells the biggest story about how your metabolism functions. And that brings me to this saying that's out there in the interwebs of these fat-burning foods, right? This whole concept of a fat-burning food. And you have a different perspective on what constitutes as a, quote, fat-burning food. In fact, you label fat-burning food as it's kind of a misnomer. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, there really is. From the scientific point of view, there is zero fat-burning foods. There's no such thing as a fat-burning food. Now, I know everyone listening is probably being like, what's he saying? This is heretical, right? The truth of the matter is a fat-burning food is simply this. It's a food that when you eat it causes you to eat less of it at that moment and eat less foods later. In other words, a fat-burning food is simply a food that gives you lasting hunger suppression, balances energy, decreases cravings, and as a result of eating that food, you are less likely to eat more of the wrong foods later. And so a fat-burning food is any food, in my mind, that helps you easily achieve a sustained calorie deficit. That's very different, right? So people have this idea of, oh, if I just eat broccoli, that's going to be a fat-burning food. Or if I eat donuts, that's going to be a fat storing food. Well, let me put it this way, right? So let's say that you, Shawn, let's say your caloric needs for the day are 3,000 calories per day. Let's say Jade's caloric needs for the day are 2,000 calories for the day. Now, if she goes over 2,000 calories and you go over 3,000 calories, then at that point, it doesn't matter if you eat another 500 calories of broccoli or another 500 calories of a donut. You're going to store that extra nutrition. Now, we can argue about the health benefits of each, but the bottom line is a fat-burning food is simply a food that causes you to eat less. So the reason broccoli might be considered by some a fat-burning food is not that it has any magical properties. It just simply has a ton of fiber in it, a low caloric load, and keeps you full for longer. Here's an example. I'll give you guys an example. A donut versus a chicken breast, okay? Both of these foods have 250 calories. Now, which of these two foods is going to keep you full for longer and fill you up faster? Which is going to decrease cravings? I don't know about you guys, I could eat 5 to 10 donuts in a day. Try eating 5 to 10 chicken breasts in a day. This will tell you what a fat-burning food is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
For sure. Shout out to Homer Simpson, man, because, I mean, the thing is, it's a bigger perspective for us to kind of step back and look at, because not only is this the satiety factor, it's the overeating factor, because it stimulates that appetite actually, and having access to those donuts, that should be the real you can't eat just one.
Yeah,
I mean, and there's so much variety. They're so pretty in the box, but it's taking on like which one of these things are actually going to activate these various hormones and suppress other hormones so that we're not overeating. Right? That's really the key. So I really love that, man.
But y'all
and by the way, I'll say this. Think about it from this point of view, right? We talk a lot about fat being, a lot of times people say fat is now sort of seen as a health food. We've all heard about the coconut thing going on right now, right? The coconut might not be as healthy as we thought. It might not be a fat-burning food. Well, there's no such thing as a fat-burning food, right? It's just what this food does when it gets inside of you. So think about it this way. If fat really was a fat-burning food, a donut has more fat in it than a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Yet it's something about that donut that for most people will cause them to overeat. What science says that is it's devoid in protein. It's highly palatable, so it triggers our brain and turns on the hedonic centers in the brain and makes us want more of these foods. So a fat-burning food is simply a food that shuts down the reward centers. They tend to be a little bit more bland, right? They tend to be rich in protein. They tend to be rich in fiber, and they tend to be rich in water. So if you want sort of a rule, right? Because I know a lot of times people say, come on, Jade, Shawn, tell me what to eat. Well, I can give you some guidelines, and those are them: foods rich in protein, fiber, and water, and foods that aren't stimulating the reward centers in the brain are more likely to be, quote, a fat-burning food. But this is very individual. For me, maybe I have a glass of wine and it causes me to eat less during dinner. For Shawn, maybe he has a glass of wine and it causes him to eat more at dinner. So in that case, wine would maybe be a fat burning food for me, but a fat storing food for Shawn. And so we have to make allowance for not just the science, protein, fiber, water-rich foods, but also the individuality, my tendencies versus Shawn's tendencies. And this is how you begin to devise a fat burning plan for you, not something that you're just told off the shelf.
Love that. So what are some of the factors that create this individuality as far as what works for our system?
Yeah. Well, one is, here's what's an interesting thing. So take Jade versus you, right? So Jade as a woman is more likely to be a super taster. She probably has more taste buds in her mouth than maybe a man does. And so for her, she's going to be more responsive maybe to bland or bitter foods and not like those as much. She'll be able to pick up sweet more. And for us men, maybe we're the opposite. So we can oftentimes have some more bland foods or not respond to sweet as much. So some of us have more taste buds than others. Some of us are more insulin resistant compared to others. Some of us are more leptin resistant compared to others. So for those of you who don't know these terms, insulin and leptin, these are just hormones that basically communicate from our digestive systems and from our fat cells to our brain to say we've got enough fuel or not. And the big picture here, without giving you a biochemistry lesson, is that when food touches my mouth and I swallow it and digest it and assimilate it, it's going to behave slightly different in me than it will in Shawn or it will in Jade. And we have to acknowledge these differences. Now, that being said, we can say across the board, based on science and clinical experience, that there are certain foods that most people do well with. These are going to be low-calorie foods that are more bland in nature and not super sweet or super flavorful. They're going to be nutrient-dense, fiber-rich, and protein-rich. So if you want me to break this down for you, you know what this is? Salads, soups, scrambles, and shakes. Salad, soup, scrambles, and shakes. Salad, soup, scrambles, and shakes. These things are loaded with fiber, protein, and water. And so if you really want a nice fat-burning base, salads, soups, scrambles, and shakes. Salad, soup, scrambles, and shakes. And then add to that your individual sprinkle of the things you really love. Maybe a little bit of wine here and there. Maybe a little bit of coconut oil in your coffee if you're into that. Maybe a little bit of this or that. But really our base is going to be salads, soups, scrambles, and shakes. Do that and you have a nice big base of fat-burning foods for most people. And then you can get individualized from there.
I love it.
So I'm clear on salads, soups, and shakes. Where would I go? How do I understand the scrambles part?
Yeah, so take eggs, right? Very protein-rich food, enough fat to satiate you.
For sure. And
then put a bunch of vegetables inside of that, a frittata, right? Scrambled eggs with some veggies, and now you've got fiber-rich, protein-rich, nutrient-dense, and not too palatable, right? Think about scrambled eggs or frittata versus a donut or a pastry.
Right.
A donut or a pastry, you're going to want to eat more of that stuff. A frittata, scrambled eggs, you're going to be more suppressed. Now, of course, there is variation here, and that's why we have to be very careful of making dogmatic rules around nutrition. I call this structured flexibility, by the way. What I'm giving you is a structure to follow initially. Hey, these are the foods that look like they're going to be fat-burning foods for most people, help most people eat less, achieve a sustainable calorie deficit. But then you can be flexible within that and still have the foods that you like within reason, if that makes sense.
Which is the sprinkle part.
I love that.
That's the sprinkle part.
Got it.
Another way to look at this, think about this. Look at a plate. For most people, a plate, right? You can visualize your plate. Half of that plate should be vegetables, right? Maybe a quarter or more of that plate is going to be protein-rich foods. And a little sliver of that plate, a little sliver, a little door you can open or close depending on your metabolic uniqueness is going to be fat and or sugar and or salt and or alcohol, the things that make our food a little bit more enjoyable. But go too far with those things and you're going to hit those reward centers in your brain and you're going to want to overeat. So we have to acknowledge what the science of food is and then what the art of our biochemistry is.
You know, that term, structured flexibility, wow, that brings to mind water, right? And how we are literally mostly water, okay? We're talking 70 to 80% water. Every single person listening right now, and as I'm looking at Jay, it's like, you're water.
Yeah.
You're water with some minerals and some, your tissues hold minerals and some proteins,
I
but
got
you're
some
mostly
sprinkle
water.
too. I got some
So
sprinkle.
here's the thing with water is that it has the ability, it literally is structured. You know, water itself has a structure, and you see this when you freeze it, for example, right? And it brings to mind that statement from Bruce Lee about being water, right? Because it has the ability to flow and to be flexible, but then it can hit like a punch. Yeah. It can be hard and can be structured. And so you're mostly water. So how can we be more flexible within our choices and also still having that underlying structure? And to look for that. And there's so many different opportunities for flavor sensations, because at the end of the day, we want to enjoy this process. You know, Jade has something set up that works great for him. You know, I have something set up for myself. And so that's really the key. And I want to make sure that everybody leaves today's episode with this important insight. This can be game-changing if you really get this. And he shared this multiple times already. Chronic nutrient deficiency leads to chronic overeating, all right? When he's talking about having your plate half filled with vegetables, it's because they're so nutrient dense, right? You're turning on like your body is craving certain nutrients to make you to make you animated, to make sure that you live. And so if you're not getting in the zinc, if you're not getting in the amino acids, if you're not getting in the magnesium, hunger's still going to be around because your body's like, hey, I need some of this stuff. Maybe if the next time this person eats, we're going to get it in here. We're going to keep it moving.
We can find some in
but
here
then
somewhere.
in comes Funyuns, right? And your body's like, oh, and delicious, you know, super taste, and it's good. But then it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't get what I want. You know, hunger again, you know, an hour later. And so many of us live our lives like that and have no idea where we can't get our appetite under control or be able to, quote, lose weight because we're setting ourselves up for failure following these cookie cutter diets that are saying, oh, just follow your points. You can eat whatever you want. Just follow your points, right? and you're not getting the nutrients. You're not getting the real nutrition that you need. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, man. Well, one of the other things that I want to talk about with you, and you mentioned this earlier, is stress. And we've got to break this down because I think that this is the most overlooked aspect of weight gain in our culture today by far. But we're going to do that after this quick break. So sit tight. We'll be right back. I've been battling something for many years, and that is how to fortify or to make sure that I have an insurance policy with my health. And for a lot of us, we're marketed to that we should pick up a, quote, multivitamin. And I remember when I was a kid taking those Flintstone vitamins, they were delicious, but was I really getting any nutrition from those bad boys? And fast forward to today, and we have the Centrums of the world and the men's and women's multis. And a lot of people are buying into this billion-dollar industry, not realizing some of the big mistakes that are happening with those purchases. Number one, this industry is not very regulated. So we have to be mindful of that. What's in the pill might not actually be in the pill. All right. So we have to pay attention to that. Number two is the processing of those nutrients. We're talking about when we buy a multivitamin from a conventional company, we're getting a substance that has literally been isolated as a chemical compound in a laboratory, all right? It's not a food-based nutrient. So do your cells even recognize that? Is it simple chemistry that if there's vitamin C supposed to be in this pill, that your body's actually going to take it on? Well, I'm going to argue that no, it's not going to. You're going to have a greatly reduced ability of assimilation when we're throwing our money basically out the window buying those multivitamins. And I know you've had this happen where you buy a multivitamin and then your pee is like some Ninja Turtle color, all right? Some weird neon yellow secret of the ooze. And it's like, what is that? Am I dying? No, you're not dying. Your body is basically getting rid of some of those compounds that are just that it's just tried to take on. And also there are some compounds in the pill that are nourishing your body for sure. There's a couple that are doing that, but overall, it's not the best idea. So what do we do? What do we turn to? Well, personally, I make it a must, and I tell every single person that I come in contact with that they absolutely have to get themselves a green superfood blend. And my favorite is Organifi green juice. It is the best tasting because I've experimented with a lot of the green powders out there. It's the best tasting green powder that I found, and it is loaded with nutrition. I'm going to share a couple of things with you that I really enjoy. So, number one, it has organic wheatgrass, super loaded with micronutrients and phytonutrients and these really incredible minerals and trace minerals that add a lot to our health. But really, who's going to guzzle wheatgrass? All right. It's not going to be an enjoyable thing. You know, I used to actually go to the juice place and grab a little wheatgrass, and I trick my mind into thinking, oh, I can taste a little sweetness in there. But every time I drive past somebody who freshly mowed their lawn, I'd start to gag. All right. And I don't want that to happen to you. So it's put into Organifi as one of the hallmark things. Also, we've got organic spirulina. And as you know from listening to the Model Health Show, I'm a big fan of spirulina, the highest source of protein of any compound in the world by weight. So it's about 70% protein by weight. And humans have been consuming this for thousands of years. And there are some really interesting compounds in there you're not going to find anywhere else, like phycocyanin, which has a great impact on your stem cells. All right, so stuff like that, really seemingly magical food compounds are found in spirulina, and spirulina is found in green juice from Organifi. Also, they've got the ashwagandha for stress relief. They've got turmeric, which is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory compounds you're going to find. But here's the great news about this. It's processed with care and consciousness. It's a gently dried superfood blend that's retaining all of those nutrients that you're really going for when you're trying to get a, quote, supplement to supplement a great diet. So remember, food first. Juicing is amazing, but you can get a lot of those nutrients you're looking for in your fresh made juices by consuming the green juice from Organifi. And by the way, I'm a big fan of juicing. I've been juicing for about 10 years now, and it's one of my favorite health practices. But seriously, who's going to clean the juicer for me? You know, if you're going to come over and do that, it would make my life a whole lot easier. Nobody really likes to clean the juicer. And what we want to do is make sure that, yes, we don't want to stop juicing, but those times when you're in a rush, or those times when you know that, hey, I really need to fortify my nutrition, make sure that you're turning to Organifi's green juice blend and just throwing that into some water even, and you're going to deliver a lot of those micronutrients and phytonutrients and trace minerals and minerals, vitamins into your cells because it's retaining those nutrients because it's properly produced. And I love those guys, and they've actually given us a great, amazing offer as a sponsor of the Model Health Show. So if you go to Organifi.com, and that's Organifi.com, and use the coupon code MODEL, you're going to get 20% off your first purchase of Organifi. Head over and check them out right now, Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com, and use the coupon code MODEL, that's MODEL, at checkout for 20% off your first purchase. Now, back to the show. All right, we are back, and we're talking to the incredible Dr. Jade Teta, and we were just going to dive into what I think is the most overlooked aspect when it comes to maintaining a healthy weight, healthy body composition, just being fit and being healthy, is this stress, is this big hormonal player. And so can you break down, first of all, how stress actually contributes to weight gain? Let's just start there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what you need to know about our metabolism is nothing but one big stress barometer. It's reading stress in the environment constantly. That's its job, because it needs to know what's going on in the outside world so that it can tell the inside body how to respond to that. The metabolism is just trying to always get us back to balance. And so anytime we are pushed too far out of balance, the metabolism will react. Now, here's the thing to know that's confusing for everyone. The number one historical ancestral stress for the human metabolism was what? Starvation.
Yes.
And so we are left with a metabolism that when it gets stressed, it doesn't matter if you're in traffic, under a deadline that your boss is on your case, in an argument with your significant other, exercising too much, eating too little, being sleep deprived, it does not matter. It registers that to some degree as a starvation response. And then what it begins to do is try to bring you back to balance. Well, what's the metabolism going to do if it thinks you're starving? It's going to make you hungrier. It's going to make you crave more highly palatable, calorie-dense foods. It's going to cause you to be less motivated to exercise, and it's going to store fat, primarily fat around the liver, the visceral fat, because that's the easiest way for it to get access to its fuel stores in another time of stress. And so rest assured, and this is not, I'm not being coy here for a reason. I'm just coming out and saying it. Rest assured, stress, any type of stress is a starvation response to your metabolism, and it will push back against you forcefully trying to gain that fat back. So you push too hard on your metabolism, it will smack you across the face, and you cannot win a battle of wills against the metabolism, period. So if you really want to understand why I'm exercising like crazy and I'm supposedly eating all the right things and not seeing results, I can almost guarantee you are putting yourself under too much stress. Now, we can get into the biochemistry of this if you guys want, but I will say one interesting thing about this. Most of the time in science, when we look at animal studies versus human studies, we kind of want to look with a degree of trepidation. We just kind of want to be like, all right, well, that animal study said X, Y, Z. We don't know that it applies to humans. But when it comes to mice, their metabolism is very similar to us. We can make them fat, predictably feeding them the same types of diets that we feed humans. Guess what's the one thing? It's not that easy to make a rat gain fat in the lab, to be honest with you. But there is one thing that predictably does it again and again. You feed them a high calorie, high palatable diet, and then you stress them out by shocking them or making them swim and all these kinds of things, and they will crave that high calorie, palatable diet even more. And guess what happens to them when they get under stress? If you leave them in a cage, they go to the corner of the cage, they plop down, they sit, they don't want to move much, and they gorge themselves for brief periods of time. So they'll go gorge themselves for one bout of eating, and then maybe another bout of eating, and then they do not want to move. And this would make sense evolutionarily speaking, right? Like imagine we all lived in caves, and every time you ran out, you know, Shawn was in danger of getting picked up by a pterodactyl and dragged off, or Jade was going to get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. If you knew that was going to happen, you're not going to leave your cave much, and you're going to eat as much calorie-dense food as possible inside that cave. So this is what happens when you're under stress. If you find yourself just wanting to sit on the couch and freebase Doritos and drink Coke, and also not be able to stay on a diet, I can rest assured that your stress levels are probably through the roof, whether you realize they are or not.
Wow. My goodness. So much good stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, the stress will come back and slap you off across the face. I'm like, Charlie Murphy. I was just thinking about that smack because that's what's happening. You know, I think this is so overlooked because I've had this happen so many times clinically. I know you have as well, Jade.
I was going to say.
Like people come in and they're looking for, you know, this, like a lot of times this happens. They're already exercising, sometimes too much, actually. And they're on this, what they feel is a great diet. And sometimes it was true. It's just like, what is the missing component here? And generally I would find, and it took me years before I even started to figure this out, man, sleep and or stress. And sleep deprivation is a huge stress.
It's a stressor.
But stress is that underlying component because people don't really understand. Like you can stress your way into being overweight. Please understand that because it's not just about the food. It's not just, and I'm a nutritionist, so I'm like, it's all about the food. It's not, because the food choices that you make are going to depend upon that stress. And so if we can really get this today, I think it could be transformative. We have to have strategies to help to modulate our stress. You're going to experience stress in life, period, probably daily. But one part is the resilient component, you know, and how you even picture stress, how you see it. We are not mice in the laboratory. We can actually choose to perceive stress differently. You know, so when you go through something, just say, you know, it's something on your way in from work and you can picture, you know, this is something that, you know, maybe it really irritates you, makes you angry. You could see it as like, this is a big problem for my day. This is throwing me off my game, or this is just a little warm up to make sure that I'm sharp and I'm ready to go to execute on my day or whatever. Or like, you know, whatever it is, like some kind of mental construct that helps to bring down the cortisol response, the adrenaline response, and bring up a little bit more parasympathetic activity. So your perception is so important. And we're going to talk more about
Absolutely.
that
I hope
on a
so.
future episode because
so.
your perception is your reality.
Clearly.
So that's a big piece here.
Absolutely.
And so I want to kick this back to you because you mentioned some of the biochemistry. Like I do want to talk a little bit about that, so to help people to understand a little bit more how stress is actually affecting our weight.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. Most people, they sometimes ask me, they say, hey, Jade, where is the metabolism, right? And they say, is it the thyroid? Is it the adrenals? Is it the gut? Well, the metabolism is in the brain. That's the command and control center of the metabolism, an area called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus communicates with the thyroid, the adrenals, and the gonads, the ovaries and testes. And this whole system, along with the gut and the liver and everything else, makes up how your metabolism responds. So for lack of a better way of saying this, excess stress irritates the hypothalamus. Irritates it to the point where, if you guys have ever been to a loud concert, right, and you forget to bring your earphones or earplugs and plug up your ears, and then the next day your ears are ringing and you have to lean in to hear everything someone's saying and your hearing's just not the same. This is what it's like when the metabolism in the hypothalamus is under stress again and again from daily life. And so all these downstream things that we hear about, oh, I have, quote, adrenal fatigue. Oh, I've got hypothyroid. Oh, I'm dealing with PCOS or low testosterone. These are all stress effects. By the way, I'll say this too. This is what's an interesting thing. Think about this, a couch potato who's sitting on the couch, eating Doritos and not working out versus someone who is exercising like crazy and then eating very sparsely. Isn't it interesting that both of them have increased hunger, unpredictable and unstable energy, increased cravings, sleep disruption, mood issues? Why? Because both are under stress. So if you want to know if your metabolism is under stress or not, we could talk about all these hormones, but to make it simple, hunger, energy, and cravings, HEC or HEC. Sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings, SHMEC, SHMEC. If your HEC or SHMEC is out of check, you are under stress, my friend, and you have to do something to deal with that. Now, what's the something to do? I'll bring this home by talking about a client of mine. I'm not going to use her real name. I'll just call her Barbara. But similar to what Shawn said, here's a person that came to me, wanted to lose about 20 pounds. I was at the time, I'm embarrassed to say, I was known for this. I could not get this person results. She would lose a little, gain some back. Lose a little, gain some back. I was at my wit's end. We did everything, keto diets and paleo diets and vegan and vegetarian diets. You name it, we tried it. Metabolic conditioning, high intensity interval training, everything. Then what happens is she happens to go on vacation. She comes back and all of a sudden, she loses about 7 pounds. And I can tell Shawn's smiling because he has probably had this happen to him before too. She loses about 7 pounds and a lot of body fat and looks different. And she gets on my body fat scale and you would think she would be happy. She wasn't at all. She just about burst into tears because she's like, I don't understand this. I ate whatever I wanted. I just walked around. I didn't work out. I slept in with the kids. And that's when the light bulb went on for me. We have got to give her metabolism a vacation. And so you know what we started doing? I said, I want you to start walking more than you're exercising. I want you to start doing saunas and contrast hydrotherapy baths to relax you. I want you to get massages. I want you to sleep in a little bit earlier instead of waking up at 4:30 to do sprints, right? I want you to do all these things. And all of a sudden, once it clicked for her that she had to manage this stress response, diet got a whole lot easier and exercise became a whole lot more motivated to do it. And all of a sudden, doing much less, what appeared much less on the surface, she began to see results. And this completely changed forever how I did weight loss medicine. It is huge. And so we have to, quote, give your metabolism a vacation. This is the way out for most people.
You can write that prescription for the massages and the saunas and all that for me all day.
This really brings right to the forefront the fact that, today, again, we all are going to experience stress, but we just kind of dive face first into it and never really pay attention to what's happening. Before you know it, like your life, it is stress, and there's certain terms that I've heard over the years about what life is. Life is movement. Life is love. Life is an adventure. for most of us today, life is stress, and we are not, our barometers aren't really set. We're not picking it up and realizing that. And so whatever it might be for you, because the thing is, the people, they don't necessarily need the massage, right? They don't need to go on vacation to have this experience, you know, and I think it's a problem in culture when we're working to get a vacation from our life, when life is stress. How can we create it so that life is an adventure, life is a vacation in a way, you know, endless summers or whatever works for you, you know, every day is Saturday, whatever it is, you know, but how can we do that? And I think it starts with just some of the points that he's bringing to bear here. A simple understand, like for her, like when you said it, man, I've had that happen so many times. So it just like hit me, like, because it's been a while since I've been in practice, and just, man, it's just so, because you do all these different things. You know, we had close to 80% reversal rate for type 2 diabetes, but that 20% of people would like cause me severe problems with like, why is this not working? And questioning everything about them, having tried this, try that. And it wasn't until I really understood about stress and sleep that everything changed. You know, the floodgates would open for those people as well. And for that person, for your stress management, and we could just go through some pieces now, anything that you can throw out here, but some of the things that we can look to help to modulate the stress, for people to start working in a little bit more than they're working out, if that's what they need.
Yeah. Let me say this, because I think this will drive it home and clear up some confusion for some people. The interesting thing is, what becomes stressful for a couch potato, right, is trying to become an athlete overnight. So you said, right, think about this. You said that our life is stress. And if you want to know real stress, think about our ancestors. They go outside and there's a saber-toothed tiger waiting for them. That's a lot more stressful. Imagine someone giving you a spear and saying, hey, Shawn, there's a wild boar on aisle 2 in the grocery store. You got to go kill it now to get dinner. This is stress. The difference between our ancestors and us is that they trained slowly, deliberately over time to be able to be strong and resilient. The biggest mistake we make when it comes to stress is go, oh, I've been sitting on the couch, and now what I'm going to do is just become, an overnight athlete. I'm going to try to go do what Shawn or Jade does, and I'm just going to start doing sprints and metabolic conditioning and doing all this stuff. When the right approach is to, obviously, we don't want you sitting on the couch a little bit more, so you have to move a little bit more, but you don't have to jump all the way over here. You got to start walking first and sleeping better. And then you can build up to some weight training. And then you can, as you develop some tolerance, you begin to be able to do and tolerate high intensity interval training and add 2 or 3 workouts per week. And so what we do is we miss the fact that the way to combat stress, the first point I'll make is, yes, certainly the lifestyle I live and the lifestyle Shawn lives and the lifestyle that many of us live is balancing stress for us. But if you're going from doing nothing and you try to go to a low carb, paleo based diet, intermittent fasting and high intensity interval training with weights thrown over your head and running around and screaming, that's going to be a stress for you. And so you have to understand you're going to have to go slowly. That's the first thing. Right? The second thing I'll say is we have at our disposal amazing stress management techniques that no one is talking about, that relax us and restore us and make us feel wonderful. The number one thing that we have is walking. It both lowers cortisol and it is amazing at sensitizing our body to insulin. Yet I don't hear people talking about go for nice, long, relaxing walks. Instead, they're like, go do interval training, jump up on this box 1,000 times, go over here and throw this ball up on the wall, go over here and do 1,000,000 burpees. Walking should be the base of your stress management. And then everything else that lowers cortisol, hanging out with people. This conversation I love. It's lowering cortisol for me because it's creative and it's stimulating. I really like hanging out with you two guys. It's very sociable. I'm lowering stress. Massage. Time with pets, as long as they're not peeing all over the floor. One of the things that is wonderful that a lot of people miss is orgasm and sex and physical affection is an amazing stress reducer. We don't talk about it enough, right? That is huge. Hot baths, relaxing music at the end of the day, sauna therapies, massage, spa time, facials and pedicures and manicures and meditation and all of these things. How many of us right? And I would just ask everyone listening, and I'll even put myself into this. How many of us are scheduling these kinds of things into our day and or our week? I don't think many of us are, and that is literally what it takes. The people who I have seen stuck in this journey, getting them to program these things in. I'm actually going to take tonight a 20-minute Epsom salt hyperthermia bath, sipping on a nice cup of valerian tea to relax us, right? How many people are programming in a long walk through a greenway? This is what is required.
Oh, man. So many great insights to pull from there, you know. And when after he mentioned sex, then he said take a bath, and Jay was like, she giggled, 'cause, you know, I don't do the giggling, but she giggled because it was just like
manly, like, because he
you
said
was like
good hot,
right. But what I'm saying, you were like, I could do both at the same time,
all
right?
of it. Well, no, I didn't say same time, but
Like
maybe
the LL Cool J
consecutively,
line,
right.
take a shower for about an hour.
That's right.
Whatever, man.
That's it.
So here's the thing, you know, just to piggyback on some of these things, they're so overlooked and they're so simple, like, and it's free, right? You can reduce your stress by just go outside and walk.
Yep.
And this is one of the things, and I think it's a problem because of how it's ingrained in our culture, Jade, what we talked about earlier, like you're not beating yourself down, right? You're not pouring out sweat, which you could, you know, if it's hot outside or whatever, you got layers of clothes, whatever, you could sweat walking, but just a relaxing walk, you don't think about it like that. So for me, coming into the game and, you know, after changing my own health, and I added in pieces as I went along, but at that point, I was pretty proficient in being able to take things up to 100, right? To really go up to 100 in my intensity. And for other people, it's just like when I hear about I'm walking for exercise, it's like, pick up your pace. You know, what are you doing? You're going to walk yourself like right into not getting fit. And it was a total opposite, because eventually that became a big part of my fitness regimen. You know, a big part of my life was getting up and walking every day. You know, before I made my move to now, I generally, sometimes I might do that, but I'll do a rebounder, whatever the case might be. But I utilize that tool, and it brought so much benefit. And this is one of those things where, you know, I like to use the term learn while you burn, while you're walking. You know, you can have a meeting, right? You can take care of some of your calls. You can listen to an audio book. You can listen to a podcast. It's just a great time. Or you can just take some time in nature and just observe, you know, life around you. You know, there's so many great benefits to pull from there. And also with the sex piece, this is something I did an entire chapter on this in Sleep Smarter. And we talked about, you know, how a big O, you know, orgasm relates to improving the quality of your sleep. And it goes both sides, right? Your sleep quality impacts your sex life, and your sex life impacts your sleep quality. And we actually did an entire episode of the Model Health Show. We'll put that in the show notes for you. But here's just one takeaway: oxytocin, right?
That's the other big O.
Oxytocin, this is clinically proven, and I cite some studies in Sleep Smarter, to combat the effects of cortisol. You know, this big stress hormone that a lot of people are talking about. It basically shuts it down. And you can get this from orgasm, even just contact, right? Just getting close to snuggling up. Would you stop with the eyebrows?
Are my eyebrows moving?
Yeah, they're going up and down like Groucho Marx over here.
Visualization.
Just, you know, prolactin, we've got oxytocin, we've got serotonin. There's so many different benefits that come from that. So, but we don't really think about it in those terms. And for us, we talked about this with Dr. Michael Bruce, a lot of times sex is out of convenience, right? Especially if you got kids, that kind of thing. Have sex at the end of the day when you're exhausted because, you know, we're trying to get it in, you know, whatever. You know, but changing your perspective on that and how it can be so beneficial to both parties in different ways. But
I'm even
thank
okay
you for
with
sharing
the
that, man.
idea of scheduling it, you know.
But what?
I mean, seriously, when you talk about the busyness of our lives, you know, we'll miss it. Next thing you know, another week is gone by.
How about we just schedule like date time, private time? How about that? You know,
8:30, let's go.
Yeah, right.
Flexibility.
Right, structure, flexibility, right there.
That's right.
Honey, it's
7:30. Take your shirt off.
It's 8:30. Missionary 8:35.
That's right.
You know. So, anyways,
Exactly.
let's move on, because one of the things that you mentioned that we are employing today, you know, and the great thing is, you've been in the game 25 years, man. So you've seen this progression where people are paying attention to what actually does work for fat loss, you know, when it comes to exercise. So high intensity interval training, for example, is really clicking for people, public consciousness. So let's dive and talk about that. Some of the exercise essentials for people, if their goal is fat loss, and we would just say that stress is addressed in a pretty decent way, They got sleep dialed in, and they're eating good. What are the best methods here?
Yeah. Well, the body is talking to us all the time. And so, so hunger, energy, and cravings, and sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings. We learned about that and how the body tells us if the metabolism is, sort of balanced or not. Well, when you're working out, there's also some biofeedback signals you can pay attention to. I call them the B's and the H's, 2 B's and 2 H's, breathless, burning, heavy, as in straining, and heat. Most workouts, right? Most people make the mistake because they're like, well, if I'm breathless and getting sweaty, then I'm making a difference. And they're missing 2 other components. They're missing the burning and the heavy component. In order for you to burn fat, you have to register a stress in your physiology so the body goes, uh-oh, I better stand up and take notice and release glucose and release some fat and make sure after this bout of intensity is over, I could put on lean tissue and stay leaner so I can perform better. If you're only doing breathless-based workouts, that's not going to happen. Women usually fall prey to this, by the way. They'll go for lots of runs, do lots of spin classes, do lots of aerobic classes, and lift these tiny little pink weights. And they'll get breathless and they'll get sweaty, but they don't see the results they want. At best, they maybe get skinny fat. They burn some fat, they burn some muscle too. Guys also fall prey to this as well because what they do is they go into the gym, they don't get breathless, they don't really get sweaty, they just lift big heavy weights around and they get what I call muscle fat. They build muscle under a layer of fat. What we want to do is combine these two, get breathless, burning, heavy, and heat. What's this look like? Well, I'll break it down for you real quick. 4 movements, okay? Big body movements. Let's say a push-up, a back squat, a bent over row or a pull-up, and a shoulder press. Big body movements that move multiple joints and multiple muscles all at once. Do 10 push-ups, do 10 squats, do 10 of the bent over row, do 10 shoulder press. Repeat that again and again and again without stopping. And guess what's going to happen? At some point, you're going to get so out of breath, your muscles are going to burn so much, you're going to reach a point where the weight is just too heavy to push, and you're going to have to stop at that point. Once you have to stop, the brain goes, uh-oh, this is intense. I better ramp up fat burning now and fat burning and muscle building later. And what you do is you wait just long enough until you can go again. And then you get right back into that circuit. So we're talking big body movements that work the whole body and movements that create the B's and the H's, breathless, burning, heavy, and heat. If you really want to think of what this is high intensity interval training while you're carrying weights around. If you want to know how it feels, if you've ever chopped wood, if you've ever done a tug of war match, if you've ever pushed a big wheelbarrow up a hill, if you've ever, flipped a big tire over or any of this kind of stuff, this is what it feels like: breathless, burning, heavy, and heat. That's what a fat burning workout is. And many people are missing it. They tend to, I'll say one more thing, then I'll shut up, but they tend to do what I call the circus-based workouts. Run over here and lift this little weight. Go over here and throw this ball on the wall. Come over here and balance on this. Come over here and curl this on one leg. Come over here and now do this. Now come over here and juggle this rope. Now come over here and do that. Nope. 4 movements: squat, push-up, shoulder press, bent over row. Do them again and again and again and again until you are forced to rest until you can go again, and go until you can't go. So push until you can't, rest until you can. This will give you the B's and the H's. It's a far better approach, so you avoid the skinny fat situation and you avoid the muscle fat situation.
Oh, man, I love this. Great. I love this so much. The skinny fat and then the muscle fat. I love that you even brought that piece out because we see this in culture and we don't, like the guys, they're swole. I say, instead of muscle fat, a swoller bear, right? A swoller bear. And so I just posted this on Instagram. It's a little meme. It's Winnie the Pooh, and he's walking away with Piglet. And Piglet says, "Why are we walking, Pooh?" And then Winnie the Pooh says, "Because, Piglet, running would be cardio." And then understanding, what he think he's, because, he's a swoller bear, right? And he think he's saving Piglet's gains because Piglet's small, But we see these different phenomenons in culture, but we have this idea about the body and the health that we want to have. And it really boils down to simplicity. There's the movements are so basic and these other pieces, like the component of adding in the walking, it's so simple that we overlook it. Like we try to make things too complicated. And it's great to have different things that we can add into the mix. You know, if there is a spin class, if there is this thing over here, that thing. But if you're not getting these hallmark kind of foundational pieces, you're missing out on a lot of transformation. And so, man, this has been so valuable and so insightful for us. And I just absolutely love talking with you, and definitely got to have you on the show again, man.
Every day.
You know, one thing that I've got to say is that Jade is somebody who is really walking his talk, and he's created the life for himself that he really loves, where he's giving value and he's doing the things that he loves to do. But it wasn't an accident. It was a process, you know, so we're all in process, and being able to learn from people like Dr. Teta can just really help to add to that superhero utility belt that you can be able to adjust and to modulate and to figure things out for yourself. Because that's what I love most about him, is that he's promoting, like, there's no cookie cutter thing here. You've got to figure these things out for yourself. I know you want the cookie cutter, but I'm going to give you the truth. And so I just admire that about you, man. So thank you.
And the truth about the cookie.
I just adore what you guys are doing. Thank you for your work. I mean, you're killing it, man. We all appreciate you so much, both of you.
I received that, brother. Thank you. So can you let everybody know where they can connect with you online and where they can find your work?
Yeah. My website is jadeteta.com, and at Jade Teta on all the social media. And if you really want to sort of ask me questions, things like that, probably Instagram's the best place to get me.
Perfect,
man.
perfect,
His
my
IG
man.
is popping,
Thank you
too.
so much, brother. So everybody, thank you for tuning into the show today. I hope that you got a lot of value out of this episode. This is somebody who I truly admire, and I admire his work ethic, but I also admire his relaxed ethic as well. You know, like he takes care of himself, but he also strives to have a good time, and he's always sharing incredible content. So definitely follow him on Instagram if you're not doing that already. So that's JADETETA. So at Jade Teta on Instagram. He's got some remarkable posts. And of course, just check him out online. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes as well, guys, by the way. TheModelHealthShow.com. You can get all the show notes for this episode. And then also you can check out the video, see why Jade is over here tripping about the other Jade.
Yes.
So we'll put that on the website as well. So at TheModelHealthShow.com, you can check us out there. So today's episode was really about having a broader perspective, you know, really taking this meta perspective when it comes to transforming our body, looking at food a little bit differently, because it's not as simple as, you know, a donut versus a chicken breast. There are so many layers to that, and we have the ability to see more clearly once we become aware of it, right? Because a lot of this stuff is like hiding in plain sight. We know that donuts are not the best for us, you know, as far as what we're making our tissues out of, and our tendency to overeat them, but they're also they're an option. You know, they're here. It's not that a donut is like the worst thing in the world. Like, I promise you.
Not a donut, no.
Zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
I come across a Krispy Kreme? Please.
Right.
Please. Hot and fresh sign stays on because, you know, there's like zombies or whatever, you know. I'm going to take a dozen and I'm running, you know. But in normal day-to-day life, though, I enjoy feeling good.
Yeah. That's
the big premise, because for me, and I've done this, if I eat a donut, you know, gluten-free donut, I'm feeling nappy time. Yeah. Come on, you know, like I get a crash from that. Yeah. You know, so it's finding out the things that work best for you and understand everything is an option. There is a way for you to enjoy this process, but you have to know that you're in process, and you have to know what's going on behind the scenes. And so that's why I was so happy and excited and overjoyed to deliver Jade Teta to you guys today. So thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you've got a lot of value out of this, make sure to share this out with your friends on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. I truly, truly do appreciate you. So many amazing guests and amazing topics coming up, so make sure to stay tuned. Take care. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.